You said in a relationship, the problems aren't relational. They're usually personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
98%. Most of the problems are, individual problems. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that either or both of you are working through your stuff, your individual stuff, it'll strengthen the relationship. It's truth.
Stay Sharp, episode 28. I am Jordan Ray, and joining me is my other half, Rashad Tyler.
Of course.
We are the duo behind Rare Label.
That's us.
That also produces this podcast and supports fly brands and businesses from strategy to implementation.
All over the world.
You're here to go to school on our experiences or just observe. And if you like what you see, make sure you like, comment, hit that subscribe button.
You're welcome.
And feel free also to send us a note via email. That'll be in the show description.
Holla at us.
We want to do a shameless plug here. If you are looking for agency support on any of your projects or you just want a consultation, definitely check out the show notes. We got you.
For sure.
How are you today?
I'm rocking.
Rocking.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Hey.
Rocking. That's like a song.
I have no idea what song that might be, but yeah, it is somebody's song.
Rocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Louisiana artist.
Okay. That makes me feel better because it felt like it was from
Am I
that.
right, Malcolm? You kind of familiar with what I'm talking about?
I don't know if it's a Louisiana artist, but it's like rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't like it.
What, you saying you don't like songs by Louisiana artists?
That's not what I'm saying at all. Because like low key, like first of all, I listen to what I listen to. I want to be careful like about my depth of consumption because it's not
great
high.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. But when I like an artist, I'm clear why I like the artist. I may not be able to go bar for bar. If it's R&B, like I got a much better chance of going melody for melody. Like I can hold the melodies for a long time. But I love Rob. I've always loved Rob 49.
Will you share what's his new song? Will you share how it goes?
The setup. The setup is so hideous, yo. Like, why would you go ahead.
Because I have to. What's happening, baby? You mine, baby?
Hey, I see you. Baby. Yeah, that's right.
Right?
I'm
not gonna say the rest.
But
I can't say the rest on the podcast.
But that
why do you like Rob? What's up?
He's
Rob,
a star. He's a star. And you know this. One of the things that I think now I think other people would say, yeah, you know how to do that. I know how to recognize stars and what it takes to develop somebody into a star.
Yeah.
So I remember calling you and just because I remember getting familiar with him through the city. And I was in the radio room in LA and he came in and I called you and I was like, oh, he's a star. Mind you, like I'm there with, my team, Neo's running around in a banana suit. Like it's all type of like weird stuff happening.
It's a very busy time. It's a very busy room. The setup is insane.
Is BT Awards? That's what BT Awards radio room.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he just
and this was a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago.
2 years ago, maybe longer. Yeah.
It was a little over a year and a half ago because BET Awards is in the summer and we're in February right now. Oh.
No, this had to be 2021.
Okay.
No?
We did not do BET Awards in 2021. We did 2022. I'm sorry. Maybe
I did 2 of them. Last year was 23. That's the one that we missed. So we went to the 2 before that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Time flies.
There you go. Hello.
But yeah, Rob is very captivating and he's playing this, not even playing.
He's just very intense and very, even when he's subdued, he's just very intense energy. Yeah. And the voice, the subject matter, the aesthetic, the whole thing. Like,
yeah.
And then the performance on this latest record, which is a smash. it's not exactly this is something that would only make sense for a person who is a non-New Orleanian. It feels, it's not the same as, but it feels very juvie to an outsider. And I have an outsider's perspective, and I'm going like, oh, like that dialect, that tone, that cadence, that style. It's like, oh.
Yeah, that's really dope. We're very much fans. Rashad is the first time I ever heard him rap a song, it was Rob 49. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. In the club every time I'm going in on it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Turn my shit on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, congrats to that team though. Y'all got a big one.
For real.
And actually, like, I haven't talked to him in a very long time, but Stan, who is CS Levy, I think that's the label. He doesn't know either. But like that crew, like Stan's been a great guy for a long time. Yeah. I know he kind of prefers to be behind the scenes, but I believe that's who he's working with or has been working with from the beginning. So congrats to them all.
Keep doing your thing.
Indeed.
It is also Mardi Gras.
And the Free Water Boys for crushing all of the visuals or whatever. Because that's also a part of like the aesthetic. Like, by the way, like Frankie is probably the most underrated in the country, most underrated director, editor, because he has a very distinct style. And people are mimicking it, but it's still just his. And there are a lot of people that do it, but his version of it is his version of it. That very fast cut style. It just... It's kind of like there's an authenticity to his version of it that I just don't see from anybody else. And I know, as you know, some of the best directors and video producers in the country, if not the world, and everybody's got their thing. He's got that.
Yeah. On lock. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Like what he does is
flawless. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
As I was saying, it's also Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah.
Today is Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Happy Mardi Gras, everybody.
Yeah. Fat Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We come on at Tuesdays at 8 and the parades are rolling. So actually our New Orleans audience, they're not watching right now.
No, they're not checking for us at all. Not
we'll see y'all tomorrow or Thursday.
On the replay.
On the replay. But yeah, I thought about getting us some king cake and then it didn't really work out. King cakes are, I wouldn't say they're totally not hard to come by, but the good ones, you need to go. Sometimes you're going to have to wait in a line to get the king cake or the flavor that you want, or you need to order in advance. And I just wasn't that prepared. But we're kind of, this is us eating our king cake.
Yeah.
And we hope everybody's having a great time and has had a great time celebrating the Mardi Gras holiday.
Yeah. It's a thing. And if you haven't experienced it, like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to describe it to you. Yeah. And
I don't know how to describe it to you.
Yeah.
It's because it's a lie. It's a little bit for everybody. Mm-hmm. It can be very family friendly and it can be
whatever you want. That's the best description. It can be whatever you want. Whatever type of party you want, you can get that.
100%.
Yeah.
Anyways, our conversation today may get a little deep. As you can see from the title, maybe our thumbnail. Mm-hmm. But we are discussing what it's like to support each other through anxiety and depression as creative entrepreneurs, as an entrepreneurial couple, and what that has been like for us, what our preconceived thoughts have been about anxiety, depression, how we knew we were experiencing it, how we moved through it, and how we just realized that this is a very normal conversation now. And, I think we're ready to have it. We've probably been ready to have it, but just felt like this was the time. So definitely want to start off by sending love to anyone who is dealing with something. Might be today as you're watching this video. It might have been yesterday, last week, right. I'm not sure. Or, you're just kind of on the roller coaster. Like, we all could feel like we're on this roller coaster. So definitely sending you love. We understand. And we're going to just talk about it.
Yeah.
I want to give a little bit of background to, or just share something that maybe people do or don't know about us. But we are about 10 years apart in age. And I think that has some to do with how we support each other through this.
I think so.
So yeah, like what's it like for you, us being, us kind of having that like decade in between us?
I mean, well, for me, well, two parts come to mind. The first thing is I think there's, a lived experience that I'm hoping to move along to you as your advantage. And so there are like sets of things that hopefully you don't experience. But if you do, my lived experience or people who have been acquaintances or friends of mine or even ahead of me, like I can kind of share some of those insights. So it's not just like us running side by side through difficulty. Like one is running ahead, passing some information, backwards. And I also get a chance to contrast things that were probably not available for my generation and my time. So I'm just like, oh, that's what it was like. Separate from like region and family. That's what it was like being in high school at this time. Right. Or like, you get the nuance of things like the contrast between what you grew up watching from the elementary age, like there's Sesame Street kids and they're like Barney kids, you got all of this range of difference. I was too old for the That's So Raven crew. Mm-hmm. Right. And that means something.
Yeah, we definitely came up on different television, music, movies, entertainment. Mm-hmm. And that's funny, some of the conversations, some of the things that I don't get because, this is something that was from your childhood or your young adulthood. And there was things that I was like, I wasn't even really able to watch that. And I haven't caught up on all these movies or these shows. And yeah, that's always kind of a laughing joke. And but you've put me on to a lot of stuff too, because you have the experience that I'm coming into a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And there have been times where it may have gotten a little frustrating for me because you seemed so cool about something that I felt was a big deal, right? Yeah. And I'm going through it and it doesn't change that I still have to go through it just because I am in close proximity to someone who's already been through it.
Right.
And it's been more helpful than hurtful, but yeah, it's something that we don't necessarily, I don't think we think about it. I mean, I don't think about it hardly ever. Yeah. But there's moments that come up when you're dealing with major, life changes or difficult time. And sometimes the experience does like soothe or settle everything out. Mm-hmm. And on my end, I might be doing something for the first time and I just feel lost in the sauce. I just feel crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's not another way to experience that. So the fact that you're so clear about why the frustration exists, is like proof of, the work done.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think about depression and anxiety? We can group them together for the sake of the conversation, or if we need to be specific. Apart, yeah, absolutely. So obviously.
I can do that quickly, like in terms of like my experience, because I've experienced the depths of both, I think.
Well, what I want to ask though is, and what I want to preface this by sharing, what did we think it was before we learned what it was, either through experience, just this is earlier on, before you really have, your first breakdown or panic attack or depressive episode, or it's like, yeah, how did you think about this before you had experienced any of this?
I didn't have any warning and nobody was framing it at the time. Mm-hmm. So I think like where today our young children are being educated in terms of what yoga, meditation, usefulness of these things were. I was one of the first people that I know that was driving how important this work was. I don't know anybody that was talking about, like, this was 2010, 10, like nobody was talking about mental health at the time. And I'm screaming. by the time it gets to 2012, I'm finally like posting about it. But I was doing it in a very cool way, right? Or at least I perceive as a cool way, because I didn't want to come off as weak or broken. I don't know. There just wasn't a lot of room for vulnerability in that way at that time. And I still don't necessarily express breakdown, maybe because I'm in a different place, but I should have been saying, I don't have any control here. Like I feel out of control, right? And try to find community in that way. But again, there was no such thing.
Yeah, I don't remember it being talked about and discussed, when I was growing up. And I think that I thought, respectfully, I'm super young. I'm not really experiencing anxiety and depression at this time. Not that no one who is younger doesn't.
You might have been, but you couldn't diagnose it, and it wasn't loud enough because of the rest of the distraction that you probably had and the comfort.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that I was, but I still had no awareness of it, and I wasn't, that I knew of, close with someone who was dealing with any of these things and was talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that I thought that it was an illness like any other illness. Someone has anxiety or they have depression, and it wasn't registering for me that normal, healthy, successful people can also experience these things.
Right.
So that's what I remember before I began to move through these things as an adult.
Right.
I was just like, oh, like it's not that it's not a big deal. People just have sadness or they have this anxiety. And if it's not over the top where someone needs medication, it doesn't count. Like you just need to get your shit together. Not in a bad, like,
I get it.
Just because I'm like, I don't have any information on it.
Right.
And that's not a knock to anyone who I was around or anyone who raised me.
And they were in the same boat, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It just wasn't normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And I think today, of course it is. There are tools that are, now delivered through smart devices that weren't even thought of at the time.
Yeah.
And the concept of therapy, especially for people that look like, us who are in the world, you go to church, right? Especially at that time. And again, I don't believe that there's this crazy boom in people using therapists. I think there is a hell of a lot more than there was. And that's to be, something that that we should be encouraged by.
Yeah.
And in addition to the use of the tools that have been made available. But I think that there are far more educational avenues, but I'm not certain that there's more application.
Do you think that everyone has a level or some degree of anxiety and or depression?
Yes, I am 100% certain that we are all experiencing, if not suffering from, bouts of both. And it is literally your tool set that will make all of the difference.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that you experience or don't have any of these things, you're just in a place of denial that you don't have any awareness about. Because that's what it all boils down to. Like, you can't quite diagnose things that you don't have a prescription of. It's similar to like racism. Like, you need to understand what it looks like to understand if you're participating or not. So sometimes you go like, well, I'm not this, I'm not that. You just don't know.
Yeah. Would you say you've had more experience with anxiety or depression?
The depression is more loud to me. I couldn't say which I've had more of, but the depression is certainly more loud because the the energy of not doing, the crippling part of that is something that you live in for a long time. You stew. The anxiety is more like a knife, like, you get like you peak and it almost doesn't alarm until it's ready to put you on your back. Right. So you're operating probably at a level of anxiety for a very long time before you notice that you're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes literally the pinging moment, the sharp pain moment, the shutdown through the panic attack before you realize it's a problem.
Okay. And I feel like I'm asking these questions because you are a certified, what you're talking.
I do not.
I know. Yeah. But I'm prompting us with just thoughts that are literally, some of these things are coming to my mind. But do you think that does someone have to have panic attacks to have anxiety?
I don't know. I feel like you actually have a bit more information around this. I don't necessarily, but I'm sure you don't.
Because I'm almost like I'm ready to Google or chat GPT, but I think you could have anxiety without ever having had a panic attack. Maybe
100%.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. That's what I mean. Like, I think people don't necessarily know.
That's where I was at with, well, if you don't have panic attacks, like you don't have anxiety, you could just kind of, you need to just get your stuff together.
You just think that it's normal.
Yeah.
To be in a place of deep stress where you can't make sound decisions and you lose the ability to find perspective. Mm-hmm. You think that it's normal. Mm-hmm. So you live in an anxious mind.
Right.
Potentially.
Right. And totally fine. Just without the awareness that I do live in an anxious mind, how can I get that under wraps?
Yeah. And not being aware that you don't have to, that there's an alternative. Mm-hmm. But you don't push yourself towards the alternative oftentimes until you have the panic attack, because that goes like something has to change. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know too many people who are just like running towards their next, big, long bout with anxiety and destroying relationships and paranoia and all of these other things that they could otherwise avoid. And they just didn't know it was devastating until they see the effects of the life lived or they have the panic attack. So I would urge everybody to do some work. Take me through what an anxious day looks like for you. I don't have anxious days. Okay. Moments. Back then, though, I was just in a constant place of, and I'm in a constant place of driving now, but I just didn't know how to let go. And I can't really describe what exercises I'm doing to release or recognize or kind of, see. I'll say it in this way. An anxious moment for me now is not having the ability to see that I'm in the room. It is me being very much into my body and things hitting me in the room. So when I'm in my best mind, I'm able to separate from myself and see myself in the room. And it's not, I want to be careful not to paint the picture that I'm operating in a third person point of view, because I'm terrible at that. But what I mean is I can observe my thoughts. And when I lose the ability to observe my thoughts, meaning I'm kind of barraged by them and they're kind of controlling me, whatever the playback is that I'm getting at any given time, I know I'm in a bad way. Because now I can't control or pick which narratives I want to engage with or dismiss. Mm-hmm. Does this make sense how I'm saying this? Yeah. And I think that's the most important set of exercises that we can build ourselves into doing. Because if you get the narrative or the echoing sound or lyric in your mind that says you ain't worth a damn, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that, your most observant, non-anxious mind will allow you to hear that and go like, I don't like that. Push that one away and go like, I actually love myself. I love myself, and choose that one and engage with that one. And the separation between that, if that feels very hooky, it's because you're very much in the whatever's coming to your mind is real and it's not true. You just haven't experienced enough of muscle building to separate yourself from
the thoughts.
Yeah.
Hooky dookie.
Hooky dookie. And I'm not like, I think some people rely on different tools. These are the tools that I'm using, and I'm not necessarily pushing them towards anyone.
Yeah.
But I think to the extent that anybody's been in deep prayer, there's a moment where you're able to receive things because you're in gratitude. When you're in gratitude, it's because you're able to back up.
Yeah.
And see what's good. That's the exact same experience. It's just being able to use more tools when you have a larger narrative set and a larger skill set with dealing with your own mind.
Yeah. An anxious day for me is...
You have anxious days, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I'm getting much better.
Yeah.
And I think overall...
They're getting shorter.
Shorter, less frequent.
Yeah.
I am just in a constant practice of how to just disassociate with the things that are going to drive me crazy, because I have had my anxiety impact, you know, my health, my life at times, my ability to work, because I am so in a tizzy, or I'm physically sick from the stress that, you know, the anxiety has put on my body and my mind. And so when I'm in it, I'm also starting to find that I can work my way out. But I definitely have days where I'm just, it feels like things are moving so fast, and am I moving fast, or are things moving fast around me, or am I just moving slow, trying to figure out what do I need, and tend to that first, even though sometimes you're back to back to back and you feel like you can't stop to handle it. How do you handle it in the midst of, so if you can't take a few deep breaths for real, or close your eyes and do a whole something, even if you don't have 5 minutes, how can you be actively even in a meeting or a presentation, or, you know, with your kids, and actively be there, but still figure out, okay, like I need to, in my subconscious or in the back of my mind, I also need to be trying to work on this. Yeah. Because I don't feel I'm not operating as smooth as I want to be. So my anxious days just feel like a spiral. I can tell that my heart rate is up a little bit, because I can just feel it. Yeah. Even if my heart rate might not be up a bit, just a hair. Yeah. You know, just, okay, I can notice it. And it could be debilitating is a strong word for sure, but it can be, I just need to like start the day over, but not beat myself up about no stuff, because that's just what happened today. Yeah. That's how it was.
I think there's a degree of training for days, and the recovery, we talked about recovery quite a bit, because I believe that the stimulus is the stimulus. And the more stimulated you are, the harder it is for you to manage how you respond. So imagine, like, you know, being really, really tired and having to swim another mile. Like, you're much more likely to drown, even if you're in great shape. So how do you choose to avoid the water so that you don't have to find out how good of condition you're in? And it's a way of avoiding or knowing where your limitations are in your given day, so that you don't reach your empty. Because if you get on empty, you're going to snap on people.
And I do. And I know you're not talking to me right now, but that's a part of my anxious days, and why No. You got to reel this in because it's not nobody else's fault. It's not nobody else's problem. It's not nobody else's responsibility to fix that for me.
And I'll give you like a very specific example. This morning, I could feel your anxiety looking at me rest. This morning. Or I felt like it, right? Because it's not even whether or not it was real. I felt it, which might not have been a thing, right?
Yeah.
But I had to avoid like whatever stress I'm giving myself by assuming that you have a problem with me sleeping a little bit more because we got a really busy day ahead. And I'm going, no, dude, if you don't get this mind right before you start this day and you got to engage with other people and perform and show up, you need this meditation time. You're going to take it at whatever cost it is. So if Jordan feels a way about it, and I'm not saying you do, whatever, but if Jordan feels a way about it, so be it. It doesn't matter because the rest of the day is going to be trash if you don't do this for you. And so I'm just aware of like how that decision has a potential impact on the rest of the day. And so I'm just like, I've overstimulated myself from the day before. I got to do the recovery that's necessary to get me into the next frame. And it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah. And to that point, that's a part of how we support each other and how I am actively calm myself down. Calm down.
Did you know that's what I was doing? Yeah, you probably.
Yeah, I knew that's what you were doing. And I actually chose to leave the bedroom door open. Whereas there's some mornings where I will decide to close it, but I chose to leave it open because I knew, okay, you were in your space, you were doing your meditation, but I knew also that we needed to kind of get going. And it wasn't, I want to be really like, this is not so like, this could sound like I was trying to do some under the radar stuff, but I just politely left the door open because I was like, you'll get going at some point. And, it was a busy day. We had an early start. We needed to get a quick start to the day. So yeah, let me just leave the door open and not, that way you could kind of start to ease into the world in our day. Whereas sometimes I will just close the door when I'm up before you and leave you in the room.
It was your way of like giving me a gentle massage instead of like, hey, wake up.
That's literally why I chose to leave the door open was, okay, let him be there, but also the door's open. So whenever, you know, you can kind of maybe still hear me because I think I went down to the gym for a little bit and,
But that's
I knew
beautiful.
I was about to leave for the gym anyways. So I was like, it's going to be quiet.
That's really, really beautiful in that, like the choice to like, you could have, right?
Yeah, I didn't turn no lights on. I wasn't.
You know what I'm saying? But
you.
that's how somebody in an anxious mind would actually respond.
Yeah, and I'm never
because they wouldn't have the consideration.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have access to the what the other person needs potentially.
And exactly the point of why we're having this conversation is being together now for the time that we have been together. Just starting to key in on what are the things that I do that could rub off and make you anxious. So now you got to deal with your stuff.
Yeah.
And what are the things, also the patterns and the habits that you have that I'm like, he does this all the time. It's nothing normal. Like, I don't need to get worked up because he might approach preparing for something differently than me. That's your way of curbing your anxiety. Whereas I'm going to prepare differently than you because that's my way of curbing my anxiety.
And all of the judgment that you or any of us carries, it's the source. So the more judgmental you are, the worse your life experience is going to be. And I don't think people necessarily make that particular connection.
Yeah, let it go.
Yeah, judge less and your life will be better.
Do you find yourself judging at all? Because I know you don't. But is there like, sometimes I'm catching myself, and how do you reel in? Because you put a lot of work in to not be judgmental.
The funniest thing is I'm judging what to judge. So we were talking about the rap beef, and I'm not judging the humans. I'm judging the standard for delivering the art. You get what I'm saying? So it's like a very meta exercise in terms of like what should be on the table and what can't be on the table.
Absolutely.
And the inputs for what is making, because I felt like the Nicki Minaj verse, this record, I didn't think it was her best work. And there could be a number of things contributing to that. But why do I perceive it as not being her best work? Well, it's my standard of expectation for what she's put into the world. There's that. There's also my standard expectation based on a previous experience with what this record sound like. And both of those things I felt like were under. So I'm judging the work against the history, not judging her for her ability to do her job and do her work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that for me gives me more safety because I'm still able to move with empathy for the person for what they may or may not be going through. You know?
Not the Nicki and Meg beef came into this conversation.
I mean, it's a really useful thing sometimes because the more we have a chance or an ability to like grab onto the things that are going on culturally and like bring them into a conversation as a reference point, I think it has a much, higher chance of having, some utility.
For sure.
Yeah.
Are you open to sharing what a depressive day or moment looks like for you or has looked like?
Yeah. Because I mean, these are things that I can recognize when I'm trending. And so on both sides, I know what to do immediately to start to work myself out of or away from. Right.
Okay.
So because it's all the management. But in terms of what it feels like or what the worst experience is, I'll go to that. I remember when I lived in Atlanta and I was at my depth, I was just like crying, just like, I would just get in the tub and turn on the shower and just lay there and cry for hours. There's nobody there. There's nobody around. There's nothing,
Yeah.
And it's just wallowing, and I don't know that when I think of like what it meant when it was said that somebody was blue, I'm going, that's blue. Like that's melancholy, that's sadness, and with today's clarity, there was nothing really wrong. I just didn't have perspective,
And the tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily I had community to help move me out, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I haven't experienced as many bouts with depression as I have my anxiety days or just being anxious, an anxious person. I do know that, the feelings of, not being worthy and not being good enough, the feelings of not being worthy, the feelings of not being good enough really can stick with you, and figuring out how to, like, it's just your feet are in concrete. You trying to move through something and why do I feel this way? There's nothing really to even be sad about. Why am I unhappy right now?
Yeah.
What do I do with that? Because you have to allow yourself to feel. And once you get the perspective and you get the tools, then you're trying to figure out, how do I move myself through this? Yes, I am trending towards a depressive episode moment. However I want to be so careful with the language. But how do I pull myself out of that before it even happens, or when I'm in it? Mm-hmm. What do I do to get to the other side? And how do I, kind of keep connected? But yeah, it's definitely, it's sad. It's sad. It's tough. It's not, and coming out on the other side, and then you might realize that nothing was really wrong to begin with, and that's okay. Or, it might be hormones. It's just like, there's so many things that could play a role. You sure there's not a practice besides, meditation, you talk about that a lot, that you use that's a go-to for supporting your mental health? Like a practice, something that you do beyond the meditation that helps you kind of keep everything under wraps?
I mean, the Trinity, right? It's meditation, exercise, and diet. And sometimes I leverage diet in the wrong way. Sometimes I'll self-soothe. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not in any way a robot, right? As much as I like that as a potential compliment, you got to figure out what tool is going to get you through, but you don't want to be dependent on the ones that have a negative effect.
Mm-hmm. I like
but
that.
If a little cookie is going to like give you some sense of how you lived your life a little bit more enjoyably through a time period, then so be it. But you can't eat a cake every day, right? And there may be a season where you do eat a cake every day. You just got to know that you're penalizing yourself to that degree, and that it's going to take, double the time to get you back out of it. So do it with awareness. Thereby, you'll do it with moderation. And like, it kind of is what it is. But I think I'm past the time where I can go work out my frustration in the gym. I just don't have that anymore. I don't need that to do it.
Yeah. I'll add breath work to the meditation portion of it.
What's the difference between breath work and?
Yeah. Breath work is really different exercises, inhalation, exhalation for different amounts of time, depending on what you're working on. So if you're working on anxiety, you would have a different breathing pattern than if you were working on calming yourself down to go to sleep or relax. If you were, it can be guided, obviously it can be guided. There's different patterns for, calming and relaxing yourself for sleep, something to that effect, or even energizing yourself. There's different breath works to get through, it's
that makes so much sense.
It's the same thing as if you were an athlete and you have, you're running track or cross country, long distances, you're doing a marathon, you're going to be coached on how to breathe. This is just being coached and guided on how to breathe for the top of your day or the end of your day, or, between meetings.
That's so big. Yeah. I'm glad I asked you that question, because I always wondered, because it's all a part. Like, you're still paying attention to your breath.
Yeah, you're paying more attention to your breath. It could still be classified, I guess, I think, as a meditative practice, for sure.
It absolutely is.
You're not necessarily, your mind in meditation, you're okay, let me still the mind and kind of allow my thoughts to move in and out. This is breath work. You are allowing, you're allowing your breath to move in and out, and you're hyper focused on the ins and out, and even pausing, holding your breath for 3 seconds and then letting go, holding your breath for 9 or 10 seconds.
But are you paying attention to like the narrative piece that's going on in your mind with other noise, or you just like allow over time the focus on the breath to take over?
I believe that that's what it is. Yeah. You're allowing the focus on the breath to take over, because if you're really focused on the breath, like that's what you're focusing on. You're not necessarily like, your mind is not wandering while you're counting your breaths.
Yeah.
And you're holding for 10 seconds and then you're letting go. And there's even like the humming. The breath work that I actually did last night was an ocean sound, but it was through the nose. Yeah. Whether you breathe in your nose or out your mouth, or in your nose, out your nose, a cleansing breath is different than, all of these things. Holding your nose, there's a practice for holding, I think like your left nostril will.
I get that.
Help you fall asleep faster.
Wow. Okay.
So breath work is my thing, that it's just consistent practice with that over the last, I've really, really been consistent with breath work, maybe the last like 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So I'm now noticing myself taking deep breaths without thinking about it. And with my anxiety, that has been so helpful for my body to click that into gear when I'm feeling rushed. And then all of a sudden I know, I'm like, whoa, you just took like 3 deep breaths, or you are deep breathing while you're trying to do all this stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, cool, because my body is kicking that into gear for me, instead of me having to stop and be like, what's wrong with you? You need to do this, you need to do that. Like, and shut down. It's like, Judgment. No, body, you can still keep going because you're practicing breath work every day. So that would be
thanks for expanding on that.
What encouragement do you have for creative business owners, entrepreneurs in particular, around working through and creating art through anxiety and depression?
Ooh, creating art through. There's so much value in having learned from other people who have been through hard things. So like having a perspective that is not your earned, experienced perspective, but the learning from other people's experiences that will give you a chance to anticipate and understand recovery and move through situations that may be coming, or the ability to anticipate them will also help you avoid the stress of not knowing what's coming next, because somebody else's, again, experience gives you a guideship for what the other side looks like.
And what you're saying comes with the experience, though.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It also comes with this experience. It's just the most expensive form of learning or way to learn anything. So I would always encourage people to read different things that give them some perspective for how hard things can be or how hard they've been for other people. And therefore, you're not, again, like surprised when it hits you. So I mentioned The Hard Thing About Hard Things, that book, especially for entrepreneurs and people who need to move through difficult scenarios. He talks about like having to lay off his whole workforce, or like the valuation of his company going to zero, right? And then finally being able to sell on the other side. I think some of the Seth Godin books that talk about the dip and all of those different parts give you a chance to, again, have perspective, because when you're in your meditative practice, you got to be able to be okay with going through the time, and the perspective that comes from those books are the references that you need to be able to hang on to the other side of the dip, right? If you're in the middle of it, like you got a rope that you're swinging towards, assuming that everybody has some understanding for how Tarzan or even a monkey goes from rope to rope, but you know what I mean? That space in between is, where you're grasping at the next opportunity. So to understand what the opportunity looks like and the probability or the certainty that it exists will keep you from wanting to act or behave more extreme during that, very difficult experience.
The experience that you just described or the perspective rather that you just described of understanding the opportunity that's next, that awaits. And if there is in any way possible, we're sending out encouragement for you to be aware of the opportunity that you have, try to hold on or know that you can grasp the opportunity next that will get you through that moment, that swing that you're on. And that opportunity is coming, and you'll be better on the other side. You're going to learn things on the other side, and it's not going to last forever, but there's an opportunity waiting. What is it? You might know, you might not be so clear on it, but just knowing that it's waiting is major. So that was actually the thing that I was going to add is, okay, when I am in the anxious mind, when I am feeling depressed, I have an opportunity that's waiting for me on the other side that's going to make me better, that's going to give me comfort. I'm going to return to who I know I am, all of these things. Got to hold on to that. Do what you're
supposed to do and not be static or put yourself in a position where you're paralyzed because you're uncertain.
Yeah. Having a list of things that I go to when I'm feeling anxious or depressed, and I notice, okay, maybe I didn't catch it in time to quite prevent it. So, okay, I'm in it. I got to deal with it still. What are the things that I can lean on? The books, maybe the activities when I'm anxious, so on and so forth. What are the things that I can do when I'm feeling down, and make a list. Try not to make that list too self-comforting and soothing. Like you mentioned, you don't want to just say, well, every time I get depressed, I eat whole cake. That's not, I wouldn't put that on your list.
No.
But make a list that is things that are still beneficial to you and your well-being, but you can go to when you're confused and you don't have to think about what to do.
No.
Because at that point, you're already paralyzed.
Yep. You're already going to go to your worst behavior. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Plan during the strong times.
Plan during the strong times. I know this was somber,
possibly
kind of deep conversation. We had a couple laughs, but we totally empathize with any of you who are moving through some stuff. And to varying degrees, we all are moving through anxiety and depression. We still got to show up for ourselves through that, and other people, our families, our projects. And it is tough. So tough at any given moment. I've had really tough times with that. You've had really tough times with that.
Yeah.
We continue to work ourselves on ourselves, on our mental health, and invest in that. And then we support each other by continuing to grow together, and me figuring out and learning, okay, what do you really need? And how do I ask him? How do I talk to him when I am feeling anxious, but I don't want it to come across that way? And how, if you're not feeling so well, how do I keep from, okay, well, I'm going to be the strong one, and stay rooted. Anyways.
Happens a lot.
Any final thoughts?
No. Well, I take that back. The final thought is that, especially in a relationship, it's not really a lot of relationship problems. Most of the problems are, individual problems. And to the extent that, either or both of you are working through your stuff, your individual stuff, it'll strengthen the relationship.
That's a bar.
It's the truth.
You said in a relationship, the problems aren't relational.
No.
They're usually personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
95, 98%.
All right. Again, thank you all for tuning in to Stay Sharp. We are so happy to have you. If you're still here, please like, comment, subscribe, click that button. Also check our show notes. We do have an inquiry call link there if you want to talk to either of us. And feel free to send us an email. If you're working on a project, you want some support, we are here for you.
Yeah.
And in the meantime,
stay sharp, yo. Please.
Later.
Bye.